Hello everyone, so welcome back to the NextTS rule course. Today we are on the class 14, remembering that we had 20 classes, so we are almost in the end of the course. And this video is sponsored by X-Team, the most amazing company of the world to find remote jobs, and with a very different atmosphere that you cannot find anywhere in any company of the world. If you want to know more about X-Team and about the remote works and this lifestyle, take a look in the link down below here in the description. Also, if you don't have access to our code base, which the entirely code base of this course is stored in GitHub. If you don't have the link, you can grab the link down below under the description too. And today we are in class 14, where in the last class, in the class 13, we created the hooks. We created a component for updating existing user. And on this class, we are going to create the hooks for effectively submitting a put request to the server and update the user that we want. Remember that we don't have the API yet. We only have the mock that intercept the calls and return the data. So basically this mock will intercept the call and will update the data from the sample data that we have. But in the next class we are going to start studying MongoDB and also API. So until the end of the course, from the class 15 to 19, we are basically working APIs, and finally in the last class we are going to deploy and work in the DevOps part of the app. So okay, let's go to the class 14. The first thing that we need to do, if we go here to the component that we created last class, remember that we refactored because we had the create component, the create page for create a new user, and we basically refactored the form that we had inside it, because you can use the form both for creating and also updating. So we basically shrink this into another component that can be used by create and update. And now the first thing that I need to do, just remember that we are in the branch 14. The first thing that I need to do now basically will be create the hooks. But before creating the hooks, we need to create the put request, the HTTP request. Remember that all the requests are in the services fetch.ts file, and here down below we can create the next one. It will be the same format of the another ones. So it will be export async function, but this one will be called update customer. And this will receive the entire information that I want to update of the customer, and is the iCustomer type, as well as all of the other guys that we are. And this will return a promise iCustomer. We return a promise, and finally we are ready to write the body of the function. It will be return await. Remember that it's a synchronous function, and we want to do an await for waiting until the promise is resolved. And get access instance, remember, for getting the instance that are configured for our API. So we don't need to keep configuring this every time we do a HTTP request, but this time will be a put request. And then we are going to do this. I will copy and paste here. We are going to do this here. And customer. What we are doing here, we are basically doing a put request to customers, the customer ID that I received here, and then update it, which means that if I'm trying to update a user, for example, if we go to our sample data here, we have Darth Vader, and we want to update Darth Vader. It will be a put request to localhost if the server is running in our local customers. Then ID of the Darth Vader, which is 1, and then update will be update. Will be that the URL that will be fetched for doing the put request. So everything's good here. The printer is complaining about the formattation, but this doesn't. Okay, I saved this file, and now the next thing that we need to do will be the hooks. So we go here to hooks and the file hooks, and basically this will be the same thing as delete. Will be almost the same thing as as a create one, but with a little bit different. It will be export function, use mutation. I use mutation update customer, okay, and then this will be a use a mutation result, because we are manipulating data. Every time we are just querying and searching for data, we are doing a query, and when we are mutating and changing data, we are doing a mutation. So it will be iCustomer, iCustomer, and then the next will be unknown after a string. Now it will be iCustomer again. And then I can start writing the body of my function, which will be the hooks. It will return use mutation. The name, every time we create a new hooks, we need to give it a name. But as this hook is for, we gave the same name for all of these guys, because basically what we need to do here, it is just as we have different methods, I mean a hook for put, and a hook for post request, a hook for get request, I can put the same name on them. And then this is receive a data, that will be an iCustomer. And finally, I will do this, call the method update customer from fetch and data finally. And this guy, something is okay, what this guy needs here, okay, data, okay, it's just formattation problems here that we have. And then if we run every time I will do this, your guys are tired of that, npm run link for formatting our project, we will also format the fetch file that we just have done. And now the hook is ready. And now I just need to configure the mock now. As we don't have the API yet, we are going to do the mock. And we have all the mocks. The last one, the last but not least mock will be mock.onPut, because it's the last one, the only HTTP method that we haven't covered yet. URL, it will receive the same URL as delete, because basically this guy here, it will be basically the same as delete, but the only thing that changes it is the update part. It will be a function that will receive the config of the request, and then here I can do the body of the function. And here the first thing that I need to do will be the same thing basically of the delete, but I will need to change a little bit, slightly some things here. The first thing that I will need to change here will be, I will do this, in order to find it, I'm doing an if clause here, remember, just to check if the URL is valid. If the URL is valid, I don't have any point of continuing the request. I just need to respond that there is a server-side error, because I could not parse the URL. Okay, but here we are going to change slightly some things. We are going to do a string. Remember that, because when we get an ID from the URL, the ID comes as an integer, and we need to do a typecasting for a string. We are basically get config URL and do a match, which will receive a regular expression, and this regular expression is basically this one here. And do this regular expression here, that is basically only for getting digits, numbers in this. And as my URL looks like this, localhost 3000 customers 1 update. The only number that I have here is 1, and I won't have this part here. So the only number that will be seen by this regex is the number 1. That will be the ID of this guy. So okay, everything's done here. The another thing that I need to do here, it will be the same. I need to find the index of the guy that I want to update. Basically, I need to find the index of this guy. Though this part here will not be the same, only this. Remember that we first, for deleting and for updating, we need to find the guy in the sample array of data that we have. We need to find first the guy to delete it, or even to update this. So basically this will be, I will need to do this. Basically we'll find index, everything's okay here. And then I will do this. I will do const data, which is customer. I will do a JSON parse in the config.data, config.data. Well, it is the same thing that I did here on the onCreate guy on post, because I'm parsing the request body, the data that came with the request, and that I'm trying to basically update. And then data.id will be equals ID, this guy here, and then sample customer data, which has an index that we found, it will be equals data that I got from the request. So everything will be updated, and then I just do a return 2000, which is the HTTP code for everything's okay, and everything will be okay here. So I have the mock too as well, and the only thing that I need to do now, it is injecting the hooks in the component update that we have created. So let's go to our component update. First let's just run the project, and then here on the update component, the first thing that I will need to do here will be, I will use the mutation. I will just import the mutation that I just have created in the hooks. Will be use mutation update customer. We haven't exported this yet, so we are going to export this now. And then what I'm going to do here will be, what I'm going to do is just, I will just change this guy here. I will just change this guy here. Remember that this function is called, this submit callback function is called every time the user submits a form. And when the user submits a form, I want to get the data that the user inserted in the form and send to the post or the pull request for updating or creating a new user. And basically what I'm going to do here, it is just mutate, and then the data that I got from the form, which is this one here. Everything, this is the only thing that I need to do. And now another thing that I can do here will be if mutation, another, just let's just test first of all. So I will go here to my browser, and we'll test if everything's okay. Until now everything's okay. And then I will click on Darth Vader. Remember that it takes 2 seconds because we set those 2 seconds in the mock, and then add it, and then everything's okay here. And now I will do a slightly change here on my piece of code, which will be this one. I would do an if clause, because remember that when we finish updating a user, we want to bring the user to the index page. We don't want to keep the user in the form, because he already done what he wanted to do. So we are going just to do if mutation error. If something goes wrong, I need to prompt to tell the user. So set error message. We'll just put a random message here, error updating the user, the customer better. Error updating the customer. And then we are having another if clause here, which will be mutation dot is success, to check if the mutation is success. Remember, every time I have the attributes of the hooks changes, my component is rendered again. So when I do a mutation, the mutation will be processed, and when the mutation returns the result, basically my component will render, and this if clauses will check if there was an error or if it was totally successful. And then depending on what happened, I can do whatever I want. So router, remember, push to this guy here, to the index. So just this that we need to insert here. And then I will run this again, and we are going to test the update guy. So I'm going to just refresh the cache here. I will do a reload in the page, and everything's okay here. I will go to Darth Vader, and then I'm going to and will be Philip Vader, which is a very weird thing, but we are finally going to do an edit here, and we are going to put edit. And if we wait a little bit, and this again, it got updated. So finally our hook for updating is finally working. Everything's okay. Just remember, doing a summarize about this class. What we have done basically was, we created in the last class, we created a component, and then in this class we created the hooks. And one thing that we need to remember and to pay attention and to enhance here is that every time as we are using a hooks and mutation, when we call the mutation here, when the user submits the form, we get the information of that he's trying to update. And then when we call the method to mutate this data, basically the hooks will be called. And then as my component is attached to the hooks attribute, so every time one of the hooks attribute changes, my component will render again. So when my mutation hooks fetch the HTTP endpoint, and then when the HTTP request is successfully resolved, all of those attributes will be updated, and then my component will be rendered again. And when rendering, if the HTTP request was a success, we basically, this if clause will take a look here, we'll check that this variable, which is a Boolean variable, will be true, and then the user will be sent to the index page. Or in the case something wrong happened, this if clause will take and will set a error message, and this one will not enter, will not be satisfied, so the user will not change. The error will be prompted to the user here down below on the component, and the user will not be redirected to the main page, the index page. So this was the last class that we were using hooks. We are finally going to start working with APIs in the next class, but next class, which will be the class 15, we are going to start taking a look in the MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database, which is the database that we are going to use for our application. And don't worry, we are going to use a remote database. You don't need to install that. And the good thing is that this remote database is free, and you also can use that database in the other projects that you have, or whenever you want to use it. And the good thing is that it's totally free, and you can open here on the MongoDB creator website. So we are going to talk a little bit more in the next class. Just remember that this class is a class 14, which is located in the branch 14. Each of the classes are divided through branches in our repo. So everything's okay. Thanks a lot for this class. It was a pleasure to teach you guys and also to learn with you guys as well. And see you in the next class, in the class 15, which will be an introduction to MongoDB and doing all the files that we are going to use in our database. Cheers.